Save the Semantics, episode 220. It is July 31st, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. I was originally planning on recording yesterday for kind of the week prior, but I ended up not having the energy for it, really. So I decided to do it today, even though I am kind of lacking energy today as well, but I had the time, I found the opportunity to do so, and so here I am. It's been a little bit, right, since I last recorded, but things have been solid, things have been pretty good. Not a whole lot going on, really. No significant updates, no crazy shit going on, nothing like that. Just been keep moving along. Trying to find some stuff to do when I have the time to do it. Most recently, I would say within the past week, one of the things that I've kind of picked up is chess. A little bit. It's a little bit of chess. I was during work, I was watching / listening to a streamer play some chess. And that kind of motivated me to play it for a little bit. It had been a long time since I've last picked it up. I would say, I don't even remember the last time I played. I think the last time I did was at a friend's house, back in high school or college or some shit. It was a long time ago since I've kind of even really thought about chess, to be completely honest. Back in elementary, there was a period of time where I wasn't obsessed with it, but I was kind of into it. I was kind of into chess. I was playing games every night against my dad. And then I was also playing in the morning. It was a kind of a short period of time. It was maybe a couple months or something like that. But I remember in the early mornings, whether it was during recess or some shit, me and my friend, we used to go to the library and play chess. And I felt really proud of myself because I found this one move where you can checkmate in 3 moves. And I was really proud of myself for figuring that one out. And of course that's pretty, I'm sure players, professional players, grandmasters are this is this is the most kind of preliminary moves that you could ever make against a complete beginner, right? But I felt really proud of myself for figuring it out kind of by myself without looking anything up on it. And my friend was like, "Oh shit, dude." Nice movement there. So that was kind of a fun thing that I had going, but I don't know, it's fun. Chess is pretty fun for sure. But any other game, I can kind of see myself getting really tired of it, getting really just irritated with it, because I was getting I think it was maybe towards the end of the week when I was just kind of playing it after work. I was definitely getting my ass kicked. I think I'm using chess.com, which appears to be the most popular platform to play the game online. But I was getting my ass kicked by other players. I think the site was tracking my progression in terms of how many matches I played, how many successes I had. But I was getting my ass kicked toward the end. I don't think I had a single win in the last 5-6 wins or anything like that. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. I could definitely see it getting more frustrating as time goes along, and because there's a lot of strategy and a lot of patience that goes into learning how to play chess, for sure, right? The cool thing with the website with chess.com is that whenever you make a move, like your starting move, it tells you like the type of move it is, which is like very interesting. So if you start, if you're white and you play, if you move like some pawn forward, it gives you like an indication of the whatever type of, opener it is essentially. And then if you play as black, whatever whatever move you make in response to that is essentially like a defense. Is like, oh, this is like a French defense, or this is like a something king's pawn defense or some shit like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I thought that was like a kind of a cool thing. I think the one thing I struggle with is like trying to figure out, especially with the last few matches that I've had, I've like struggled to figure out the way to like exploit defenses or like make, go on the offensive. Like I feel like majority of the time I was like kind of on the defensive. I was like, I'm just trying to like protect all of my pieces, and I feel that sort of mentality kind of led me to kind of struggle to figure out a way to respond back and like counterattack, you know what I mean? So I think that would be sort of the next progression if I really want to pursue it, you know what I mean? So yeah, I've had a little fun with that. It's been cool getting back into it. Who knows, like a lot of other things that may have picked up on recently. I don't know how long that will last, but I've enjoyed that for the time being. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. The Women's World Cup is continuing. I think this week is the last week for the group stages, and then onto that we're going to be going on to the knockout round. Japan, I'm very happy to say, has been kicking ass. That's other than the US, Brazil, they're like the one other team that I'm sort of rooting for. And they have been incredibly successful. Last night they beat Spain 4-0, which is crazy. I still haven't watched the highlights yet, but I plan to do so later today. I'm excited to see how they played. My mom was like super excited. She was telling me that she was having a lot of fun during the game, which is like think it's really cool to see them be successful. I remember back in like 2008, I believe it was 2008 or 2012 when they won the World Cup. That was like the last time, and all the other years have been like dominated by the US, right? So it's gonna be exciting to see, man. They seem to be really good. They seem to have a lot of potential. They haven't allowed any goals, which is pretty crazy to hear. So yeah, I mean, I know it's just the group stages, but Spain is a high-seeded opponent, and I think that the fact that they really just dismantled it and just really laid it on them, I think is kind of a sign that they're going to be a tough opponent for all the other teams, all the other countries. So it's pretty exciting, man. That's some exciting stuff right there. Later tonight, the U.S. is going to be playing, I believe, so they tied with Netherlands last week, and they will be playing, who are they going to be playing? Vietnam, I think? Yeah, I think they're going to be playing Vietnam. So, this is I think this is Vietnam's first World Cup appearance from what I remember. So I don't know how I'm anticipating them winning. Obviously anything can happen with international soccer, World Cup soccer, but I'm anticipating that they can handle it. So I'll be tuning in briefly because the start time is going to be at midnight for over here. So I'll be tuning in kind of, slightly and seeing how that goes. Yeah, so soccer, it's been exciting, man. There's been some cool matches here and there. I watched the highlights from Colombia and Germany. That was pretty exciting. That was a bit of an upset there. Um, what else? I think one of the groups, there's like it's really tight on who will be able to advance. Like there's like they're all kind of like lined up pretty evenly, so there's some excitement there. Um, but other than that, yeah, I'm excited to see how uh, this World Cup continues to progress because I've been enjoying it so far. I think it's been a lot of fun checking out checking out the matches and seeing how everything's been going. I know we had the men's World Cup last year and that was really good. Despite all the controversies with like Qatar and shit like that. But yeah, we'll see how um, the rest of this one goes. Yeah, it's a pretty quiet day today. Um, I was planning on maybe running or something, but I just don't have the energy. Dude, this happens every time I drink. I think drink period, which sucks. And I've complained about this already. I know. This is gonna just be a common complaint every time I end up, drinking out sometime. But yesterday I went out with some friends and I drank a beer. Um which for me is like fatal. Like one tall glass of beer is like enough to do me in. I just have such a low tolerance. It's kind of ridiculous. But I think beer in particular, just because of the content, right? The wheat or the grain or whatever, just has more of a effect on me and in terms of how I handle it and shit. But Jesus, dude, like today I was like struggling to like today like the only thing that I had in mind today was just to get through it. I was I had the work that I needed to get through on my table, um and I just was thinking to myself, I'm gonna just handle this in the best way that I can, and that is just gonna be slowly like sledging through it. Um, yeah, it's just a struggle sometimes. I don't know. I wish that because I enjoy drinking like beer and stuff. I'm not, you know, I just wish like I don't mind the effects of it too much. Like I feel good when in the moment. Like I rarely have I rarely have like a bad situation involving alcohol. At least with myself. Like I'm always like if I drink like a significant amount, which I have in the past, like it's always been like a good time during that period. I've never regretted it. It's just always the after effect, after I consume, and just like the dealing with it afterward. I've never had a hangover, but I've had what I'm kind of experiencing now is sort of like a mini one. It's just I don't know. It's just sort of the after effects of it, I guess. I don't know. It's just it's annoying. It's frustrating. I just wish I didn't have this sort of. It's such a minor complaint. It's like why don't you just drink? Why don't you just drink like the decaf version? Why don't you just drink non-alcoholic stuff? Which I do sometimes for sure. Um, and I think the argument can be made that I could have more non-alcoholic stuff in supplement to potentially feel some placebo effect or whatever. It's just not the same. You know what I mean? You can clearly tell that it's um, not the same. So I don't know. It's just sort of something that I've sort of felt the last few times that I have drank, which is again not super frequent. But it is what it is. That's just sort of my body telling me, hey, listen, I know you want to do this, but you're gonna have to deal with, you gotta have to deal with the consequences of it. You know what I mean? Which may be minor, but you're still gonna feel it for sure. um, yeah, so, oh yeah, quick update on Persona 5. So I'm pretty sure, and I haven't looked into it because I don't want to spoil myself, but I am pretty sure that I am like right at the end of the game. So I'm not sure if there's going to be any other content following the completion of the game. But like, they've sort of implied that I'm at the end. Like, this is, I haven't really reached like a point of no return. That will be like that will really be like the flag or the cue that lets me know that I'm at the end. But it feels like it, man. It really feels like I'm right there. So that's it's kind of exciting. So I'll most likely finish it, sometime this week. Maybe I'll finish it even tonight if I feel it. If I'm feeling up to it, and then I can sort of kind of move on to the next game, whatever that might be. Again, it might be, I'm thinking of maybe doing a shorter game, just sort of an in-between game before my next sort of, RPG, whatever that might be. I'm leaning towards like Nier for the bigger game that I want to play, just because I've had my eye on it for a very long time now. Or it might be like 13 Sentinels. Those two are like the ones that I really want to get into next, because I've heard, the story, main draw being like the stories for those. But I'm thinking of doing, an in-between game, before I get into those. So like I mentioned, like Ghost Trick or some other thing. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm of course I'm looking forward to, completing my journey with Persona 5. It's been a good time. It's been a really fun, enjoyable game. I will give sort of my final thoughts on it once I finish it, because I have a good amount of things to say. I think I've talked about, I've briefly talked about some of my, some of the things that I've really liked and enjoyed, and I've also given some criticisms, but I want to give more fleshed out thoughts after I complete, what I'm anticipating to be the end of the game. Who knows? Maybe there's still like a ton of content to go through. So, I guess we'll see, until then. So yeah, that's kind of it for now. I will update you on things later this weekend. Alright, it is now August 6th. It is a Sunday. Recording this in the late afternoon. It's been a pretty toasty, pretty hot day today. I was thinking of recording earlier, but I didn't really want to. I was just kind of feeling just tired, and I didn't really have the energy to go out and stuff. So I'm just gonna do it right now. Yeah, it's been I'm gonna make sort of a commitment, not a commitment, but I'm just gonna, I'm probably gonna not be drinking alcohol for a while. I drank a little bit this weekend on Friday, and I'm still sort of dealing with it. I'm still kind of recovering from it, and it's already been like two days, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think I'm just gonna take a little break from it. Luckily I don't really have any, it is all kind of self-imposed for sure. Like, I don't have to drink or whatever, but I found some opportunities. It's been a good time for sure. It's just the after effects of it. Oh, that's like what the rough part, you know what I mean? Dealing with the day after. And I talked about this on Monday, and it's sort of a similar thing today. And on Saturday, it was definitely kind of the case where I was just sort of like, I took like what felt like pretty much like a day-long nap, you know what I mean? And that was kind of, I don't know. It was nice to be able to rest and whatnot, but I'm still sort of like, I don't know. I'm still sort of, in a strange way, kind of recovering from it. So I just need to. I think I just need to sort of take a break from drinking, even though it's really like I really don't drink that much. I've mentioned this before, but I really only drink on occasion. And there's been some occasions recently where it's sort of prompted me to, I don't know, join in on the fun and whatnot. But man, like, here's the thing. Here's like the one positive I could say is that it will be really hard for me to become an alcoholic just because, like, I can't, dude, I can't function like afterwards, you know what I mean? Like the day after. Like, if I was drinking shit every day, I don't think I would be accomplishing anything at all. Just the way my body handles it. My body is really telling me, like, dude, this is not, you know what I mean? This is not something that you should be partaking. It is kind of like, essentially, it's like alerting me of, how I'm feeling. It's like, nah, this is not, this shit is not meant to be in your body, kind of, you know what I mean? So, again, I feel good. Like, it's fun when I drink. Like, I feel like I have a good time. I'm in a good mood. It's literally all the, the, the common connotations or common, common effects of, being drunk or whatever, getting buzzed is, being a lot more loose, being more sociable, that sort of thing. Those things all apply to me as well. But, no, the effects are real, man. It kind of sucks. I wish that if I had, like, one thing that I could sort of physically change about myself, it would be kind of that. It would be dealing with alcohol and the effects of that. So, yeah, I just, I wish I didn't have, one, I wish that I had a higher tolerance so I could enjoy more in a sense. And then I also wish that I just didn't have such a, strong reaction to it afterwards. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's it is what it is, but it's kind of I had a similar thing with like weed too. I mean, with weed it was a lot easier to kind of let go. Well, they're both not like, I'm not like addicted to really any of that, but it's just main thing with weed was letting it go is for my work, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't smoking super heavily, but there was a certain point back in like 2020 where I was kind of smoking on a consistent basis, like a weekly basis, which is kind of a lot for me. And I was also taking edibles, and those edibles, I had some, I had some moments with edibles that didn't go super well. So I think that, that was sort of easy and understandable to kind of be like, okay, it's time to, you got work coming up, you got a new job, you got to really strap in, you got exams to take care of, that you got to study for. You can't really be, doing these sort of things, you know what I mean? So that was sort of it was very easy for me to reason, for letting that go. And I was already, essentially kind of planning on doing that. So that worked out, and I haven't really, smoked, like I smoked like once last year, and I haven't taken edibles in forever. So, yeah, that was sort of my experience with weed. But alcohol, I guess it's different because it's so, one, it's so widely available and so widely like acceptable, you know what I mean? It's kind of wild. Like, we see like, you see all of these ads, you see these truth ads that talk about tobacco and shit like that. And of course tobacco is incredibly harmful for sure. But it is sort of, it really kind of dawns on you how pervasive alcohol is in that sense. Like, again, it's really meant to be something that brings people together. It's a social drug, essentially, right? And it's just been so ingrained within, not just our culture, but just in world culture as in general, right? Like everywhere, honestly. That it's not really super. It's hard to kind of get away from that. You know what I mean? There's just even when, um, like even if people are like accepting of you not wanting to drink, or you have your personal reasons why you don't drink, like there's still kind of the sense, at least from my perspective, that you're kind of missing out a little bit, even when you're not. Like, there's just kind of the sense of like, oh, if I'm not like drinking or whatever, like you're kind of like not a part of that camaraderie in that sense. Um, because it's like, I mean, I've said, I might have mentioned it, or I've kind of stated it previously, but when you're like, when you're the only sober one, it's literally an incredibly sobering experience, because you see everybody else in kind of their own element. They're all sort of kind of, vibing together and stuff. It's very difficult, and I think it goes both ways. Me being, buzzed slash drunk, interacting with a sober person, like just the communication is just not the same. You're able to just, I don't know, you're able to just be more, I don't know, it's more fluid in a sense. But it's also just kind of like conversations can literally lead anywhere when you're drunk, or when you're buzzed or whatever. It just kind of can go wherever, if you're having a conversation with someone else. It's just between you two, it could go anywhere. Like, it just feel like you could go super deep. You could just talk about random shit. It could go anywhere. You know what I mean? But with when you're when you're just sober, it's like, I mean, of course you can talk. Like, of course there are things to like talk about, but I just feel like there's less pressure, or there's more pressure to kind of perform, in a way that it's like acceptable, right? It's just sort of, with alcohol, it kind of opens up the door for you to, it's more acceptable for you to say just more just shit. I've recognized, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, being the one sober person, like if you're being the DD or whatever, it's always sort of this kind of it's always this moment of you don't you are a little left out in a sense. Like, you can enjoy yourself for sure, absolutely, but I do think there is that kind of sense of FOMO a little bit, at least from my experience. But I really I really think that you don't need to you don't need to drink to have fun. I think I do have fun when I do drink, but it's not a required option. I just think that because of how ingrained within our culture it is, it's sort of hard to escape that. And in turn, it's a lot easier to feel pressured to drink, I guess, is kind of my roundabout point in all of that. But yeah, for the time being, I think I'm gonna just sort of lay off of it. If there's like, I don't anticipate anything, big coming soon or whatever. I don't anticipate any, huge events or anything like that. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna take a break. If anything does come up, I guess I'll just sort of lay off of it, regardless, and not partake. So yeah, that's kind of where my headspace is at after this weekend. So I was mistaken. I was mistaken about something. I thought that I was going to beat Persona this week, and I was wrong because there was like an additional 10 hours of content that I needed to get through. So I may beat it. I might be eating my words again, but I may beat it tonight, or I may beat it this week. I feel a little more confident about saying that, because, I mean, what I experienced, like, really felt like the end of the game. I believe what I went through was the end of the kind of the base game, the original Persona game. And all the other stuff that I'm doing right now is the Royal section, all the added content, the added storyline. There's sort of an extended school semester or whatever, and so that's kind of the section that I'm in right now. And so yeah, it's it was a whole nother thing, because it really felt like the end of something, and so now that I'm kind of experiencing this kind of part of the game. Did I mention this before? How I'm sort of equating it to Ni no Kuni. I might have said that before. I think I might have mentioned it last time, but yeah, it's where if I did say it, I'll just kind of bring it up again. So Ni no Kuni was a game developed by Level 5. They worked in they collaborated with Studio Ghibli, the art style and everything. Joe Hisashi was the soundtrack composer. So it was very much like playing a Ghibli game, essentially. So the original game was released on the Nintendo DS back in like 2009, 2010, but only in Japan. I own a copy of that game. I played through it, way back in middle school or whatever. It's one of my favorite games on the system, kind of in general. I think it's wonderful. I think it's really well done. They kind of remade it or remastered it, and they released it for internationally, so not just in Japan, but internationally. And it was Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which was an extended storyline, kind of similar to like Persona 5 Royal. And while I enjoyed aspects of Ni no Kuni the Wrath of the White Witch, I felt that it lacked the cohesion of the original game. I think that the storylines were not well blended together. It felt like the additional kind of White Witch portion of the game was sort of tacked on. And I felt that it kind of took away some of the narrative strength of the original game. And so I didn't necessarily enjoy it too much. I enjoyed aspects of it. I think the music, the art style, the characters, all of that, the aesthetics, all of that was really, really well done. But it just lacked, I feel, in execution. I didn't really like the combat, whatever. So I think, Persona 5 Royal is kind of sort of doing the same thing. I haven't played the original Persona 5, so I don't really know how much it, how much it compares. I'll probably watch like a video or something, just sort of doing a summary of all of the changes that have happened. I have an idea of like what, I have a general sense of what the added content is and, what the significant changes were, but I just don't know how, did it feel more complete with the original story, or did this kind of help add on some nice, storylines, some more story beats were more fleshed out, whatever, I don't know. So I'm just kind of interested in seeing how that is, because I don't know, I'm not sure how many games there are where there is a remaster of the game and they add like a significant storyline to it that essentially kind of transforms the game into something completely different in a sense, right? So I'm just curious how significant the changes were from the original Persona 5 to Royal, which is what I'm playing now. I think it will be sort of interesting to see, because what I experienced, what I thought was going to be the ending, it felt very much like the ending. So I'm interested to see, people's reaction to it. I know people love this game, regardless of whatever changes that have occurred. But I'm curious if, once I finish the game, again, I'm going to provide like a full, I'll provide my full thoughts. I'll do kind of a, review of it, next time around. But I'm just interested in hearing the comments from people in regards to how they handled sort of the expanded portion of the story. I'm wondering if there's similar thoughts to it in regards to Ni no Kuni. But the thing is, here's the thing with the Ni no Kuni one. That one, I feel that experience that I had is kind of unique in a sense. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Like, I'm sure there's other like Japanese players that have played it who might feel similarly, but I haven't really heard that consensus from other people because most people haven't played the Japanese version. They didn't have access to it, right? They only were able to play the PS3 version, or whenever Wrath of the White Witch came out, right? So it's sort of an interesting kind of I don't know. I feel like I have an interesting kind of perspective on that, owning both versions of that game. So I'm curious in terms of others' opinions on kind of this Persona 5 situation. But anyways, I am planning to beat it this week, today, this week, whatever. I think that I'm ready to sort of beat the game in a sense. That 90-hour completion hour time is no joke. That is for real. If there's anyone listening that wants to play the game, I do want to kind of give a heads up that this game is fucking long. It is a good time, but it's definitely long. And I'll provide full thoughts once I've completed the game in regards to all of the aspects of the game and how I felt about it at the end. So yeah, that is that. Quick kind of recap on the Women's World Cup. So the U.S. was eliminated today by Sweden. I did not have the chance to watch the game because the game was playing at 2 a.m. over here. And initially I was like, you know what, maybe I'll go to bed super early and then get up so I get my sleep. But no, I'm not going to do that. I decided not to do that. I watched the replay of it this morning, and I accidentally kind of spoiled myself. I always do this shit, dude. When I plan to watch something and it's like, oh, I'm just not gonna, and then I end up inevitably like spoiling myself on the results of the game. It's just it just always happens. It's just like inevitable. I just have to be better about that kind of thing. Just don't go on my phone, you know what I mean? So yeah, they lost in penalties. It's definitely, it's disappointing. I'm probably not as devastated as some other people, just because I don't know, I feel that their play during this tournament has been pretty lackluster. They only won one game, right? And then they tied the other two and then lost this one. So there was I don't think they didn't really prove themselves to be this number one team, the kind of the juggernaut that they used to be in the past. I read this really interesting article that was talking about how U.S. women's soccer, their dominance, how it's sort of been extended over the last like 20-30 years, and how that kind of came to be, right? Because last time I was talking about, I was curious as to like why women's soccer, particularly U.S. women's soccer, why that was so good. And a lot of it had to do with this law, Title IX, that passed back in 1972, that essentially encouraged and incentivized collegiate athletes to participate in sports, more specifically women to participate in college sports here in the States, right? So I think that brought about a lot of change, that brought more funding to sports at the collegiate level, and I think that sort of like expanded across different levels in terms of both like educational levels and whatnot, right? And there's more programs that started to appear because of that. that was kind of like a domino effect. So the U.S. For women, like women were able to really start to participate in sports from that point on, and so that kind of gave them a bit of an advantage in terms of having the skills and having the just being better trained in the sport. And I think I guess for one reason or another, I was trying to discern what kind of led to soccer being being sort of like being the way it is here. I think they briefly touched upon how a lot of other countries, a lot of women from other countries were, wanting to participate in the sport, but they just didn't have the availability because their government didn't provide that opportunity. Obviously more conservative countries just don't allow women to, participate, and still don't in a lot of places. So I think that, that sort of encouraged women to come to the States and, train and get better. And so I think that really built up the repertoire and the actual sort of strength of the women's, club. And that sort of like, that sort of has, maintained that way to this day. But other countries are starting to they've started to catch up, or they've just, have already caught up, you know what I mean? European countries especially have started to really push funding and push for, women's leagues and, premier leagues, and especially in, Europe and the UK and stuff like that. I think one of the craziest stats that I saw, or one of the craziest notes that I saw, was how Barcelona didn't have a women's team until 2015 or something like that, which is kind of crazy to me. The fact that there wasn't a professional, a women's counterpart to the men's team in one of the largest professional leagues and the professional teams and leagues in the world, which is wild to me, because that's incredibly recent. It's just like a, I mean, like 10 years ago, but that's nothing, right? And the fact that it's taken so long for there to be a women's team is kind of crazy to me, but not shocking, unfortunately. So, all these other countries, I guess not just European countries, but other countries as well, have caught up essentially, and are now, competing, almost at the same level as the U.S., as we kind of saw with, at the group stage. So I think that, that tells a lot. One, I think it's encouraging to see other nations and other, women from those parts of the country where, that where, essentially they weren't allowed to, play sports. I feel that there's more, there's just more of a movement towards, and there's, you can argue there's also an audience for women's soccer as well. I think it's one of the most, it is the most viewed sports for women's, athletics. So I don't think that's shocking by any means. So that type of appeal is gonna be kind of spread throughout the world, I think. So I think just with, how naturally societal, societal progresses are made, it means that other countries have the opportunity to become better. So I think that's encouraging, and I think that's really cool to see. I also think it's cool to see other teams potentially win as well. The only team remaining right now that have won a women's World Cup is Japan, and I am cheering for them. I am going to be cheering for them, but all the other teams have never won a World Cup before. So regardless, I think that, I will of course be
continuing to cheer for Japan. And I think they're really good. But I won't be super disappointed if another team wins either, because that means that there's another country that gets a trophy on their, gets a trophy. They're, another team is a part of history, so I think that's dope to see. You don't want, dynasties are cool to see. Again, this is also coming from a Warriors fan. It is fun in a way to see that occur if it is your team, but I also understand from the perspective of other fans, like you want to see other teams and other countries compete and actually make an effort. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of excitement there. So I kind of wanted to touch upon that because I discussed it last time, and I dug into it a little bit more, and it makes sense as to why the U.S. women's club has been so successful, but why there is kind of this shift in power, and there's more parity across the board, and I think that's really dope to see. So that is my little tidbit for today and for this week. Anyways, next time I'm going to try to be Persona 5 Royal, and I'm going to provide a review on that. I did not have the chance to watch Oppenheimer this week, and maybe I'll do that next weekend, or I'll watch Barbie or some shit, probably when, crowds are going to die down, so it's going to be less crowded in the theaters, so it's going to be better experience for me, at least. So that is that for this week. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.